Friday, April 23. The rainbow is a sign of God's covenant with Noah. Read Genesis 17:10 to discover what was the sign of God's covenant with Abraham. Genesis 17 verse 10, "This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised." And then we read in the Seventh-day Adventist Bible Commentary, Volume 1, pages 322 to 323. Circumcision was destined, 1, to distinguish the seed of Abraham from the Gentiles, as we read in Ephesians 2:11. "Therefore remember that you, once Gentiles in the flesh, who were called uncircumcision by what is called the circumcision made in the flesh by hands." 2. To perpetuate the memory of Jehovah's covenant in Genesis 17:11, "And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you." 3. To foster the cultivation of moral purity, as you read in Deuteronomy 10:16. "Therefore circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and be stiff-necked no longer." And 4, to represent righteousness by faith, as we read in Romans 4:11. "And he received the sign of circumcision, a seal of the righteousness of faith, which he had while still uncircumcised, that he might be the father of all those who believe, though they are uncircumcised, that righteousness might be imputed to them also." And 5, to symbolize circumcision of the heart. Romans 2:29. "But he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, not in the letter, whose praise is not from men, but from God." And 6, to foreshadow the Christian rite of baptism, as you read in Colossians 2:11 and 12. "In him you were also circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, by putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ, buried with him in baptism, in which you also were raised with him through faith in the working of God, who raised him from the dead." End of quote. The rainbow will remain as a sign of God's promise until the end of the world, but the sign of circumcision will not. According to the Apostle Paul, circumcision was received by Abraham as a token of the righteousness he had received by faith in God, as we've already read in Romans 4 verse 11. However, through the centuries, circumcision came to signify salvation by obedience to the law. By New Testament times, circumcision had lost its biblical significance. Instead, the essential element is faith in Jesus Christ, which leads to an obedient, transformed life, as we read in Galatians 5 and verse 6. "For in Christ Jesus neither circumcision nor uncircumcision avails anything, but faith working through love." And Galatians 6:15, "For in Christ Jesus neither circumcision nor uncircumcision avails anything, but a new creation." And 1 Corinthians 7:18 and 19. "Was anyone called while circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Was anyone called while uncircumcised? Let him not be circumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but keeping the commandments of God is what matters." And that brings us to our 2 discussion questions for this week. 1. Discuss the relationship between faith and works. Can there be one without the other? If not, why not? 2. A quote from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 126 and 127. "Many are still tested, as was Abraham. They do not hear the voice of God speaking directly from the heavens, but he calls them by the teachings of his word and the events of his providence. They may be required to abandon a career that promises wealth and honour, to leave congenial and profitable associations and separate from kindred, to enter upon what appears to be only a path of self-denial, hardship and sacrifice. God has a work for them to do, but a life of ease and the influence of friends and kindred would hinder the development of the very traits essential for its accomplishment. He calls them away from human influences and aid and leads them to feel the need of his help and to depend upon him alone, that he may reveal himself to them. Who is ready at the call of providence to renounce cherished plans and familiar associations? End of quote. Discuss any contemporary examples of those you know who heeded this same call. And to summarize this week's lesson, God called Abraham into a special relationship with him, one that would reveal the plan of salvation to the world.